All right. Well, welcome everybody. This is our second fireside chat with the Star of Grind community here live from Marquette, Michigan. If you're tuning in live, we just want to say welcome. And if you're going to be watching this at a future date and time, you are in for a real treat because we have a special guest with us this evening. So I just want to quickly just go through his background before I actually introduce him. So he has been a professional football player. He has been a leadership development coach. And now he is a current co-founder and chief operations officer for Lilly Dermatology. So you guys on the web, we can't see you, but if you can give a warm Star of Grind welcome to Mr. Tony Jackson.
Thank you. All the applause out there. Thank you.
It's great. So Tony, you started Lilly Dermatology in 2018 with your wife, Mercy, and you guys have launched your business and expanded rapidly throughout the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and also through the Chicagoland area. But before you did that, you used to play professional athletics in the NFL. Can you talk a little bit about your experience there and the transition that happened from playing in college to playing professionally?
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely a big difference, right? And probably not the reasons why most people would think. I remember going through the recruiting process in high school. The college coaches, they kind of try to woo you. They know you have options, and so they're all smiles, and they love you. You feel the love, right? And I remember when I first got to college, the guy who actually recruited me was familiar with the area that I was from, kind of a coaching legend. And in my mind, it was like this kind old man, and he was so friendly, and came and sat in my living room with my mom, and said all of these great things. It's going to be great for him. And then I remember my first practice. My roommate at the time was a linebacker. So if you know anything about football, tight ends, which is the position I played, and linebackers are kind of arch nemesis, right? Yeah. And so, again, in my mind, this old, gentle, kind man, this is the guy who recruited me, and my mom entrusted him to take care of me. And I remember the first practice after, we're getting started and we're playing, and I hear him yelling at my roommate, who again on the field, he's my arch nemesis, and he says, "George, kick his effing ass." And I'm like, whoa, I thought this was a nice, kind old man. And but it was and the difference with the NFL is, so in college they kind of woo you, and then you get there and it's like, okay, this is serious
business.
But NFL, it's serious day one. So my NFL first experience was, so I get drafted by the Seattle Seahawks, 6th round in 2005. I remember having a draft party at my house. All my family was there. All my friends were there. I get the phone call from Mike Holmgren. Yeah, we're going to take you with the next pick. My name goes across the screen. I'm super excited.
Woo, yeah.
Woo, everybody's cheering. We had a great time. 2 or 3 days later, they fly me out to Seattle. I show up to Seattle. It's a guy with my name on the sign. I'm like, this is like the movies or something, right? We leave there. We go, me and all of the players, all of the draft picks meet. We go to some like bar or restaurant that they have set up for us, and they have the cheerleaders there, and they're showing our highlight videos on the TV screen. I'm like, this is amazing. This is awesome. But I haven't met any coaches yet. And we're in a limousine. They take us there. I'm like, this is awesome. So then they take us to the practice facility. And I meet my position coach for the first time. Incredible guy. I owe him a life debt, and maybe we may get into that later, but his name was Stump Mitchell. He played football for a long time in the NFL and was a running backs coach, and but really gruff, flat affect, no smiles.
Stern.
I don't know if he's ever been happy in his life. I don't know if he's ever smiled, And so the first time I meet him, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I just came from this, cheerleaders
big
and
party.
limousine.
Yeah.
I'm like, so hey, what's up, coach? I'm all smiles. And he's like, hey, how you doing? And first thing he says to me, first words out his mouth, he says, Tony, you know what NFL stands for? And I'm thinking, like, is he calling me stupid or something?
Right.
Everybody knows National Football League.
Sure.
I said, yeah, I know what NFL stands for. He said, no, you don't. I said, well, what does the NFL stand for? He says, not for long.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, okay. And then no wooing at all. The next thing he says to me was, he looks me up and down and he says, yeah, you're going to have to drop about 15 or 20 pounds. I'm like, we haven't exchanged any pleasantries, no greetings yet. And that was my welcome to the NFL moment. And so to go back to the original question, that's the big difference between my experience. In college, they try to woo you and they try to, because you have options, you get to pick them. But in NFL, you've been picked. Mm-hmm. And so you pretty much have to, fall in line.
Yeah. And it's a job. Like you're an employee of a franchise or of an organization, and they expect you to perform.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing how the difference of, they throw all that out in front of you. For woo, it's awesome. And then it's like, all right, well, now that you got all that out of your system.
Yeah, exactly.
Pay attention.
Exactly.
Because we're here to win games.
Exactly.
So amazing. And, after playing in the NFL, you did a lot of different business endeavors. Can you briefly describe some of the most memorable instances that have helped you along your entrepreneurial path, your entrepreneurial journey?
Absolutely. I always say that, I got my undergrad degree at University of Iowa, majoring in economics, business and economics. But I feel like I got my master's degree, if you will, with life leadership. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the leadership principles and business principles that I learned from spending time with super successful entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And so, I guess if I had to name, moments or experiences that really shaped me, it was just really seeing people who measured their success in a different fashion, right? So during my athletic career, I was used to people measuring their success based upon how much money they make, mm-hmm. or we'll keep it PG, but how many girls they are, entangled with,
right,
or their statistics, how many touchdowns, how many yards.
It's all about lighting up ESPN scoreboard,
exactly.
Right?
How many tackles, how many interceptions. But it was the first time that I got a chance to be around people who their scoreboard was more so not just excuse me, the mm-hmm. traditional financial metrics of success, but also being a great husband, making a difference in people's lives, standing for something that you feel like is very important to you, mm-hmm. and it really shaped me from kind of the shallow metrics that I was measuring myself before then, which was all about the money or, notoriety or statistics or, how good you are in athletics, all of those kind of things, and kind of focus on something that's a lot more deeper. Yeah. Something that, is never done, was kind of a lifetime, a long-term, mm-hmm. Viewpoint. So yeah.
So it's a continuous process. So
absolutely.
You kind of materialism it's still there, it's a good motivator for some, but mm-hmm. then you start realizing that there's more to life than how many cars you drive or how big your house is. Nothing wrong with those things if that's what's driving you, but it's also about the service to others. Absolutely. And those intrinsic things that sometimes you can't put a number on, because how do you put a price tag of being a great father, a great husband, great leader within your organization or the nonprofit you serve on, right?
Exactly. Are these fires? No.
Well, they're fake and they're always wonderful. So that's what's great about them. So they're consistent. Let's just put it that way. They're highly consistent.
All right.
So I mentioned earlier that you started Lilly Dermatology in 2018 with your wife Mercy, mm-hmm. and can you walk us through a little about the process of how you guys built your company? And there's so many things like in a startup that you're juggling many hats, especially when it's just you and one other person, or maybe you just got like a skeleton crew of 3 to 4 or 5 people that sometimes you wish to pay them a top dollar or market value, but you're not there financially yet. So a lot of them are putting in a heck of a lot of sweat equity into this process. So walk us through, how you guys thought about your services you offered, some of the space that you're leveraging and working with, staffing, insurance, and everything that kind of went along with building Lilly Dermatology.
Absolutely. As opposed to, boring everybody with the nitty gritty step-by-step details that may not make sense unless you're in the medical field, I think the best thing I could do is kind of give you an example of how we got started.
Yeah.
The overall premise is we just took it one step at a time. It was kind of like driving through the dark. We didn't know what was far out. We just kind of took it one step at a time. And so when we got started, our daughter, who we actually named the practice after, she was barely 1 year old, right? Not a normal 1 year old because she was a preemie. So she was our first 3 months of life. She was in the NICU. We didn't bring her home until after 3 months. And so a preemie at 1 is kind of almost like a 9-month-old or 8-month-old.
Slightly, premature.
Absolutely.
But still healthy at least, and
exactly.
Still going through regular development, just slightly
exactly.
Lacking,
Exactly. And so where we are now, we don't have any family. So all of our family is miles away. So it was basically Mercy and I, caring for Lily while we're attempting to launch this company. And so it was kind of weird. Like, for example, we decided that we were going to partner with different hospitals. And so only one of us could go at a time. She would have to go and I would have to stay back with Lily.
Yeah.
I would have to go. She would have to stay back with Lily. Yeah. But one of the number one things that I remember is this was before we had our software system set up. We were setting up appointments on papers. And you guys both know how organized I am. So that went amazing.
For about 3 seconds.
Exactly. So I was the human resources, the administrative staff, the HR. I was everything.
Yeah.
Besides the doctor. And she was the doctor, the nurse, she was everything. So I would be at home taking phone calls to set up appointments while holding Lily. Lily would start crying. I would put them on mute, run in the room, set her on the bed, run back, close the door. Hey, I'm sorry. I had a lost connection or something.
You must have cut out for a little bit.
Yeah, you must have cut out. It was a bad service. So what did you say again? And this was that was kind of the that was kind of the epitome of how we got started. It was messy. Things were crazy. A lot of times we didn't know what we were doing. Yeah. We were trying different things out. We solicited all the help and feedback we could get from anybody who would, went through that same process. But we didn't know a lot of people. Yeah. And so Mercy actually relied a lot on Facebook groups. Okay. Because there's these dermatology Facebook groups that are closed to only dermatologists. And, we would read their comments and implement some of the things that they said. It wasn't pretty. Yeah. And we just kind of learned as we went, made a lot of mistakes, did some really good things. But I think the most important thing that we did was we started, and we kept going because it wasn't a good time. It was a horrible time. Yeah, you know what I mean. When you start talking about leaving corporate America, no health insurance, we got a little baby who is premature, and trying to figure all of these different things out. But we were very blessed. God kind of led us step by step, and
and it's always the thing of if you wait for all the lights to turn green before you head into town, you'll never go anywhere, right? Absolutely. It's like you just kind of have to go and do the best you can with what you got. And I think now you're looking back, it's like, those were crazy and tough times, but at the same time, you weren't too hard on yourself. It's like, listen, we're doing what we can with what we got. And, there's a lot of, like you said, like Facebook groups and other resources available that if you're hungry and ambitious enough and you're just thinking creatively, that opportunities will present themselves and you just got to get after it. It's an amazing thing that the majority of people that, tune into Startup Grind, they are those innovators. They are those, I'm not taking no for an answer. It's right. A no is just a not right now, but sooner or later, with enough tweaking, enough adjustments, and the right personnel and people and resources that eventually present themselves because you were just working your butt off. Yep. things tend to start moving in the right direction. So that's really amazing, because hearing the back of that, and then you were able to see patients all across the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and Chicago traveling. How did you guys manage the schedule to make sure that these people, these patients that you served, were getting quality care, and at the same time, you guys weren't burning yourselves out? Because that's another thing is, yes, specific times you're like, yeah, we can do it, we can do it, and then eventually you're like, ooh, maybe we can't do it, or we are over our heads. So how did you manage quality care for your patients at the same time not hitting burnout?
Absolutely. So as far as managing the quality care, that's been not super difficult because we're there. So anytime care is given, we're there. And my wife is the quality care. She sets the bar high. Yeah. As far as how patients should be treated, how staff should be treated, and so that's, I won't say that's the easy part, but we're there. Now it's a fine line, a balancing act, because I'm sure if we surveyed all of our customers, all of our patients, that there will be some people who will be unhappy for the simple fact that we are only in one place at one time. Yeah. And so people in Chicago say, why aren't you here 4 weeks out of the month? Yeah. People here are like, why do you leave ever? Right. Why aren't you here all the time?
So for their convenience.
We just came from Hancock today. They're like, why aren't you here in Hancock 5 days a week? We go to Munising. They're like, you only come here 1 day a week.
But you're already doing something. I don't mean to cut you off, but you're already doing something like incredible. Is, as a doctor, it's almost equivalent to how you guys travel, of making house calls. Which is a lot of doctors, and it's not to put down the doctors or any type of profession, but the patients typically come to them. Right. The doctor doesn't leave there and go elsewhere, unless, of course, it's that type of line of work. But oftentimes it's like you are doing the quote house call.
Absolutely. So and I have to give credit where credit is due. We got that information from our lawyer, who was on a board at the hospital. She's worked with several different doctors before, and she said, well, have you guys ever thought of contracting with different hospitals? Because we were actually going to kind of do the kind of brick and the normal way of
the traditional route,
buying a place, and kind of going that way. And it was her idea. And so, we've been very blessed to have incredible people around us. Yeah. And so even the lawyer that we have, we were recommended by another local doctor who, when she found out we were starting our own practice, she actually invited Mercy and I over to her house, had dinner with us. She hooked us up with a lawyer, an accountant, a biller, everything. She's like, call these people.
The power of relationships,
absolutely.
Quality relationships.
Absolutely. Yeah. She was a plastic surgeon, had been one for, 30 years. She'd retired. Oh, wow. Ironically enough, she splits her time between here and Chicago. But she was a wealth of knowledge, and really helped connect us to some great people who were able to advise us, like going to, different hospitals.
That's amazing. Yeah. So you realize that you don't have to build something from scratch or from the ground up. You can already leverage what's available. And if you make it a win-win partnership, then it makes sense. And it's like, why reinvent the wheel if the wheel's already cooking?
Absolutely.
If it's already spinning, it's like, well, how can we just make it spin a little bit faster, or maybe a little bit more efficiently? So that's pretty cool. I know a lot of this information people can get from your website, LillyDermatology.com, but can you tell us just a little briefly overview of some of the services you guys provide, and kind of an overarching perspective of why it's so important to actually take care of your skin and your overall well-being?
Absolutely. And so, we believe that, especially in what's going on in our economy today, things have become more and more visual. Whether it's social media, all the different platforms out there. And so, we believe that, when a person feels good, they have more confidence. Yes. It makes me think of a saying that one of my ex-teammates used to say all the time. He used to always say, if you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you play good. And if you play good, they pay good. And so...
gotta write that one down.
Absolutely. And so if you think about it, it's the commonalities to success, right? Like if you see a Fortune 500 CEO, they're sharp.
Yes.
Male, female, young, old, they're sharp. Now, when I say sharp, I don't necessarily mean you got to have a $5,000 suit and expensive jewelry, but their skin looks great.
Yeah.
Their hair is groomed. Their nails are taken care of.
Yeah.
And so just some of those some of those things that appear to be small on the surface actually have a huge effect on a person's self-esteem, and then also on your access, your ability to get in front of certain people and communicate to certain people, and also your ability to sell to your customers and your clients. And so that's kind of one of our foundational beliefs. And so from that belief, we have cosmetic services, we have medical dermatology services, surgical services. Most likely, if a person is coming to us, they're not going to die. You know what I mean? It's not.
It's not a life or death.
It's not a life or death situation. Yeah. But oftentimes, things that are may not be life or death are just as urgent. You know what I mean?
For that particular person.
Yep. They have a breakout in their skin. Mm-hmm. They have some kind of rash or irritation that's bothering them all day long. And so some of the key things that we do in Chicago is more aesthetic based. And so we have laser services and toxins and fillers and, all the things that, I was going to say ladies, but men as well enjoy, facials, peels, chemical peels, those kind of things. We do all of those services here in the UP as well. Yeah. But here we're more surgical based, more medical dermatology based. So psoriasis, acne, skin cancers, those kind of things.
Wonderful. No, that's great because you hit a good point of it's about confidence,
Absolutely.
Someone, and you said that these are minor things, like, like you said, nails or your face or make sure you're clean shaven, hair is nice. Mm-hmm. But people are judging us subconsciously, whether sometimes we want to admit that or not. They say, you're not supposed to judge a book by its cover, but we still do.
Absolutely.
And oftentimes that could be a not necessarily a defense mechanism, but it's a survival instinct because sometimes if you're looking at someone, they look kind of rough around the edges. You don't know, like, is this a dangerous situation, right? Versus the other thing. And there's always those social experiments that you see online where they take someone that maybe is rough around the edges, they give them a haircut, they put them in a 3-piece suit, and then you watch how people react to them or respond to them. And it's just like, wow. And it's just that one thing, and you see the individual's confidence go up. Like, see, this is how life could be, and so that's really amazing.
Yeah, and my wife says it all the time. People treat you how you treat yourself.
Yeah.
Most likely that'll be what you'll get from others.
Yeah. And typically, if you're just hanging out like that on a Sunday evening, that's totally cool. But then Monday, you know what? You gotta look fresh, right? So,
absolutely.
Now, being that you guys are obviously in the medical field, how did Lilly Dermatology pivot during this whole COVID-19 pandemic? It wasn't easy, but how did you guys manage?
Well, I would love to tell you that we were we were innovative and we broke down our system and did all these different things. But one thing is that because we're in the medical field, we didn't really have to pivot that much.
Oh, okay.
Wear masks. Wear masks.
Simple and basic, yeah.
Because we never really closed down.
Right.
The hospitals never really closed down. Mm-hmm. So, what's interesting, Mercy used to always talk about how when she was in residency, living in New York, how she remember one time when the train system shut down and people were walking, 30, 40 blocks to make it to their dermatology appointment.
Oh, wow.
They may cancel their heart appointment. They may cancel their, things that are really serious, but they're very motivated a lot of times for them because it's right there.
Yeah.
Like, I can't see what's wrong with your heart.
No.
Or your liver or your...
It's pickled, 100%. No,
I'm recovering pickled.
Right.
But with your skin, it's right there. And so because it's so... that's my theory, because it's so upfront that people have an urgent need to do it. And so, we had kind of the opposite problem. We shut down for about 4 to 6 weeks, and we had people calling us like, why are you guys shut down? When are you guys opening back up again? We're ready to. So
So the customer or the patient's needs were there. It was high demand. Like,
Absolutely.
hey, like, come on, like, we want to come and see you.
Absolutely.
Please, like, they're literally knocking at your door, like, open up shop. We want to come in.
Yeah, and so that's one thing that's kind of different being in the medical field. As far as COVID, it didn't really have a we weren't like a restaurant or some of these other places that really had to get nimble, really had to be creative and think outside of the box to be able to keep the doors open. And then we were in a great position because we didn't have a mortgage to pay because we never bought a place.
Right.
So we were renting space out of locations, and many of them, if we don't show up, we don't pay anything.
Yeah.
So, that was a great situation. And what that allowed us to do was to continue to pay our employees.
Yeah.
Who, even though when we shut down for that 4 to 6 weeks, things could get tight if you don't get a paycheck.
Yeah.
You miss 2 or 3 or 4 paychecks, things could get tight. So because we were nimble and lean in a lot of ways, we were able to, make sure they were taken care of, while things kind of sorted themselves out.
That's great because it's the power of not over leveraging yourself.
Absolutely.
Sometimes, you got to know when to take calculated risk or they're measured risks, but it's not being reckless.
Absolutely.
You got to know the difference between the two. And like you said, and you got to take care of the people that are taking care of the patients, because without them, everything kind of, it's the domino effect. Everything, falls right on its face. So
absolutely.
That's just interesting. And I'd like to ask that question because some people had to do some really like creative or sometimes even borderline like illegal things. You're like, wait, are you sure that you're able to do that?
Right,
you're like, no, I double checked with my attorney. It was totally fine. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But then everyone was figuring out what was going on during COVID. So it's always fun, learning a little bit about that. And, you guys have been in business for, a few short, I guess you call them short years because of how fast things have been moving. But in your time since you opened up your business, have you seen any medical enhancements or maybe technologies or breakthroughs that have changed the way you guys currently practice?
Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest things. So first of all, one thing that we do, we use technology that is not, we didn't create it, but it's kind of unique to our area.
Yeah.
Where we're 100% paperless.
Okay.
Now, it works out very well for us, but it was almost kind of a necessity because we don't have an office, right? So we don't have a space. So we don't have a place to put file cabinets and store a bunch of stuff.
And fax machines.
Yeah, so, we have to be able to pick up. We literally show up, unload, do our thing, pack up, and we're out of there. So our software allows us to be able to do that. One of the biggest things that we've implemented, and this has been within the last 3 to 6 months, because we kept having an issue with some of our administrative staff where, we couldn't find someone who we were looking for a long-term position. Yeah. Someone who would stay and be there. And we have some of those, but we didn't have enough. And so through Mercy's network of dermatologists that she knows that are in Seattle and LA and New York, they told us about a virtual nursing program. And that's been huge for us. And so we've implemented virtual nurses. We have 2 of them right now. We'll probably have more before it's all said and done.
Great.
But they're in the Philippines.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing that's interesting. If they were in the U.S., they're both RNs. So if they were in the U.S., they would be, $70,000, $80,000 a year income earners.
Yes.
They would definitely not, we couldn't afford to pay them to do what they're doing for us. But what we pay them based upon the money in the Philippines, it almost translates, to the same amount. And they're, intellect-wise, super intelligent, super sharp. You show them something one time, they got it. You know what I mean? Pick up, learn software, no problem.
That's great.
You got a new program, you show them how to do it, they go through a tutorial, they got it.
That's amazing.
And so that's changed. That's very much, it's allowed our nurses to be more effective. And so now a lot of the back end stuff they don't have to do. And they can be 100% focused on the face-to-face patient care. Yeah. It's allowed us to definitely be more efficient. So that's probably the biggest technological change that we've been able to implement.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like, a lot of people are, especially when a lot of people working from home or remotely now, like a lot of that stuff can be done without an office space. You just a laptop and internet connection.
Absolutely.
And a good communication system to document everything, the protocol behind it. And you can be all over the world. And these people are obviously in the Philippines, and you guys are here in the United States, and still be able to transact business. So that's pretty amazing. So a little birdie told me that you and Mercy might have your
birdies?
own. Yeah, well, birdies. They periodically they're in here sometimes.
Yeah.
That you might have your own TV show on the TLC television network. You want to tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was crazy. I've had someone ask me the question before. How did this opportunity come up?
Yeah.
And literally, they slid in our DMs. We get a DM message, and and we didn't even think it was real. We're like, somebody must be
messing with you.
This is a prank.
Yeah.
Is this some kind of scam or something? What's going on? It wasn't something we sought. It wasn't something we pursued. Coming this fall on TLC, it's going to be the Dr. Mercy Show.
You hear that, guys? The Dr. Mercy Show on the TLC network. Tune in.
Yeah, that was a good promo.
No.
My wife is amazing. She's incredible. And one of the things that they liked about her was after, because they had a pool of doctors that they were looking for, from my understanding. And one of the things they liked about her was they started to look at her reviews. And, because, we never had a mission of we're going to provide great service and that's going to be our mantra and we're going to talk about that. That's just really who my wife is.
Yes.
She is all about providing great service. And so I think that the reviews that she has, kind of the word of mouth of how she cares for her patients, that kind of got out there. Yeah. And we just wrapped up shooting. I believe it was about 6 or 8 weeks ago. We wrapped up shooting, and it's exciting. Yeah. We'll see what happens. We're hearing good things back from the network, and so
that's awesome.
It doesn't surprise me. I tell my wife all the time, like, she is, she's one of the most special people that I've ever met, where she literally gets everything she asks for and stuff that she doesn't ask for on top of that. Like,
expert negotiator, hey.
Well, what I mean is not necessarily negotiating, but just like, we may be talking. She's like, yeah, one day I want to have this. And it happens. You know what I mean? Like, she just, she has a good relationship with the man above. You know what I mean?
She speaks it into an existence, and it's like, you know what? If you keep going that way, I will bless you.
Absolutely.
So it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're excited.
I was going to say something about, like, when you were talking here, but I completely forgot. Oh man, when you're talking about the network and like that process, how was that, like, dealing with like a camera crew, and how, like, was it a little stressful at first, nerve-wracking?
Yeah. So
were they directing you, or did, like, hey, just you be you while you're doing this, and we're pretend like we're not here? How did that process work?
Absolutely. So at the end of the day, the show, it's my wife's show. I'm on there. I make some cameos, some appearances. But for the most part,
that's why I'll tune in. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, there's Tony. There he is.
Right. But for the most part, it's her, and it was very challenging for her, because not only does she has to be a doctor and do doctor work, and oh yeah, by the way, because it's made for TV.
Yes.
She's getting 100% made for TV cases.
Yes.
When you watch the show, you're gonna see some things like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I can't believe that just happened. And now, while she's doing this incredibly crazy surgery, which, by the way, most likely she's doing it because wherever the person is from, they couldn't find somebody to do it. So these people are getting flown from all over the country for her to perform these procedures. But on top of that, she has a camera in front of her face. So now she has a camera watching her while she's doing this. And then on top of that, after the whole surgery is over, on a normal work day, what does she get to do? Go home. Here, no. Now you get to be directed for 3, 4, 5 hours. And, okay, say that again, but say it like this. Okay, I like how you did that, but you weren't smiling. So say it again. Okay, you were smiling that time, but you kind of looked over here. So now do it again. Oh, we heard a noise in the background. And so, okay, now here's a whole sheet of paper of dialogue. I'll give you 30 minutes memorize this.
Yeah.
And then come and just say it in front of the camera. So I was completely amazed at what she was doing. And we work really hard, but our normal work days are, we leave home at 7, we're home by 6, 6:30.
Mm-hmm.
There, it's 12, 13, 14-hour days.
Mm-hmm.
She's starting at 7, she's home at 9.
Yeah.
9:30.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so when you watch the show, it's going to look a lot different than what it actually was. It was a lot of work that went into that for her and our staff, because our staff here went to Chicago. So they put them up in hotel rooms, and and now they're going through this whole process as well. So it was definitely interesting. You get a chance. It gives me a whole different level of respect for what I see when I see people on TV.
Yeah.
You think, they just whip a camera out. That 30-minute show may have took 14 hours. Every show that we shot was a week worth of shooting.
Wow.
So one show, 1 week.
And the shows are 30 minutes?
And the shows are 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So 1 week of shooting, 12 hours a day, gives you 30 minutes of TV.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind. Like you said, new appreciation for TV shows. Absolutely. And also individuals that make movies, or, even like YouTubers that go on YouTube, or
Absolutely.
Streamers, and all these individuals that, we just sit back and we enjoy the fruits of the labor and all the post-production when everything was all buttoned up and ready to go. But the man hours and woman hours that go in there to put all that together is really incredible. One point I want to kind of circle back to is when you talked about they picked Mercy and you based on the reviews you got from customers and from patients and from other people.
And that's what I think.
Yeah. Okay. But what's also very important about that is you guys were not seeking, hey, make sure you give us a nice thumbs up, or, a good, review, or, 5 stars or 5, whatever,
right.
It's if you just provide quality care and you're really in it to serve the person, whoever that person is, your user, your customer, your patient, then everything will flow from there.
Absolutely.
And if you're just genuine and honest with people, I think that's amazing. Because, I make a lot of my purchases, whether it's on Amazon or other platforms, based, a lot of it either was someone told me about it, but then I also do, my investigative research, and you read what other people have
Absolutely.
to say. So, yeah, reviews are very important, and, encourage whatever you're doing for a startup or a business for reviews.
Absolutely.
And you know what? Sometimes, believe it or not, the negative reviews is the hard truth of, this is something we should probably look into. If it's a consistent problem, we should address this. And that's really all I have to say about that. But it's still, I think, a very important thing that we live in a society that people are like, let's check, Yelp.com, let's check, TripAdvisor, let's check, right? So everyone's, it's all about reviews all the time.
Absolutely. Yep.
So as you guys continue to grow, Lilly Dermatology, what are some growing pains that you might anticipate when it comes to maybe getting your own office space, or hiring, like you said earlier, like we were planning on hiring on more people. What do you think is going to come with that?
If I had to anticipate growing pains, I think the biggest thing would be people related, just staffing, being able to find the right people. I'm actually, we're intense. We're going through an intensive interviewing process and hiring new people. We need to probably double our staff, possibly triple our staff within the next 60 to 90 days.
Wow.
And so the advantage to being small is, with a small staff, we're kind of like family, right? We know each other.
Yeah.
We've got a chance to develop that relationship. There's a certain level of trust.
Yes.
That's been developed and established. But kind of the downside to that is, sometimes, at least I'll speak from my perspective, it could be, sometimes I'm concerned about inviting more people in because I know the culture that we have. I know the environment that we have. And so I am very, very particular on who we bring aboard and who we invite in. We know we need to invite more people in as we expand. But we're very big on work environment, work experience. We spend more time with our fellow coworkers than we do with our own families a lot of times. We're Monday through Friday at least, 8 to 10 hours a week, and so it's very important to have a great work environment. And so I am a hawk for negativity in the workplace. I am a hawk as far as rooting out negative people who don't fit. That's just very important to me. I would say in a lot of ways, Mercy is kind of the curator of the medical side of what we do and the services side of what we do, and a lot of the aesthetic side of what we do. But my thing that I am very, very fanatical about is the team. Mm-hmm. And making sure we have the right chemistry and making sure people are on board and making sure everybody is pulling their weight. Yeah. Making sure no one is, kind of being a cog in the wheel. Yeah. That's very, very important to us. And so, just being able to develop that trust and bringing more people on, because you have to be around people long enough to be able to trust them. Yeah. I put very little credence into a person's resume. Yeah.
I was going to ask, obviously that stuff is once they're in and simulated, but how do you gauge? I mean, it's hard to gauge it when whatever your interview process is, whether it's a phone versus a face-to-face, whatever, et cetera.
So one thing that we actually did differently, because again, this went from mistakes. So I started off hiring based on resume. Mm-hmm. Ooh, this person has the biggest degree. Yeah. Or, ooh, this person has been doing it the longest. Hired. And then things didn't necessarily work out a lot of times. And so what we started doing, and actually we have some of this going on tomorrow and next week. So now, specifically with the medical staff, because I'm not qualified to judge whether a nurse is a great nurse or not, but the medical staff is. Yeah. And so now the first interview is they come meet the staff and they shadow us for a few hours. Great. And based upon the feeling that the staff gets, so right afterwards, tomorrow after work, I'll be asking, so what did you guys think?
And this is part of your leadership style, right? It's like you allow them to tell you, hey, you're not the boss. I'm not here to hire you, so I tell you what to do. It's almost more the reverse. Correct?
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, they're going to be working with them more than me. Yeah. I don't really see the medical staff at all because I'm not in the room with the patients and I'm not, doing those things. And so, and they understand what it takes to do their job more than me. Yes. And so,
they're closer to the situation than you
are. Absolutely. Absolutely. They can pick up on cues. They see what's going on. So, that's been one thing that we've been implementing. And since we started, we've gotten a better understanding of who we're hiring. And I think it's put us in a position to be able to make better hires.
That's awesome. That's great. So I want to shift gears a little bit here because it's no mystery that you like to read and you're an avid learner, and you can just, by your story, you can see that you've tried a lot of things, you've done a lot of things, and you're constantly tweaking and making adjustments and pivoting collectively and making sure that things are moving forward. So I'm curious, what types of books or podcasts do you enjoy reading and learning about in your spare time when you do have it?
Absolutely. I mean, the topics that I really am interested in is history, economics, business, leadership, social issues. These are things that I'm very passionate about. As far as reading, right now I'm reading a book by Seneca called On the Shortness of Life, which I bought that book because it was recommended from another book, a book by Tim Ferriss. And so that book is, I can't remember, what's the name of that book? It'll come to me here in a second, but it's a book that just is basically a reference guide. If you want to know about this, go to this podcast. If you want to know about this,
the Titans one?
Tools of the Titans.
Tools of the Titans, there we go.
Tools of the Titans, yeah. If you want to know about this, go to this podcast. You want to know about this, read this book. And he interviews so many people in the book. And he has the book split up, health, wealth, and wisdom. Sure, that sounds familiar to you. Yeah. And so, that book has been very powerful for me. It just kind of gives me perspective. When you're reading a book that was written by some Roman 2,000 years ago, the words have a lot more weight to it. Absolutely. And it kind of just really gives life perspective. Another book that I'm reading is by I'm having a brain fart right now.
That's okay. Take your time.
It's called the Modern Exec. It's called the Modern Executive. Something with executive in it. It'll come to me here in a second. But one of the key things that he talks about is just if you're an executive, different things you need to do. I'm in a chapter right now where he's really talking about the importance of delegating, being able to manage your time, being able to use your time for the best usage of what you can do, only doing what you can do, and so yeah. And as far as podcasts is concerned, I love a lot of different podcasts. I watch the Joe Rogan podcast. That's one of my favorite podcasts. I'm really, for the most part, a YouTube fanatic. I'm on YouTube a lot. I like to kind of drill down on a topic. And kind of, stick on that topic over and over and over and over and over again. So yeah, those are some of the things that I like to learn. And for me, it's a combination of, kind of a hobby, but I look at it as my work.
Yeah.
Because my job is to always be learning. My job is to always be getting better. And, that's one of my main roles, for my staff and my wife as well, who happens to be my boss.
Yeah.
So
us married guys know that the wife is always the boss.
Absolutely.
So,
I have a double boss, though. She's my boss and my boss.
Well, as long as you're trying to get better, then
absolutely.
Doing your best. And, then she can be happy, with that. Now, as you expand, your knowledge base and you're doing all this continuous learning, what is your big, hairy, audacious goal? The thing that, like, what? If it took me my entire life to achieve, I will still dedicate to it because it's so that vitally important and it will be extremely rewarding. Even if I don't even hit it, but just the pursuit of it. It would be something I continue to go
Absolutely. For. And Mike, me, you and Jasmine, we've known each other for a decade, right? And so if you'd asked me this question 10 years ago, it would have probably been like, okay, I want a private jet or my own island or, it would have been something, something crazy like that. And, but as time has went on, for me, it's more based upon the legacy I want to live. And, one of the biggest legacies I want to live is I want to be able to help change and influence the narrative of what it means to be a black man in America, what it means to be a black family in America, an entrepreneur, and the reason why that's important to me is because even still to this day, we were talking earlier about the whole looking good and we have a great appearance, people, I can see that a lot of times who I am, oftentimes I have to overcome that initially when I meet people. It's something that I'm used to. I went to the University of Iowa, being in life leadership. We were in a lot of different places that I would have probably never been, talking to a lot of people that I probably would have never talked to, but it was great practice, right?
Yes.
And so, when I come across someone, I know how to, in the first 30 seconds, get them to judge me by who I am and what I'm sharing and what I do as opposed to my appearance.
Yeah.
But it's something that I can't ignore, the fact that a lot of times I know that just me going around and being myself, people already have an idea of who I am.
Absolutely.
They already have an idea of what I'm about just because of my appearance. And, it's something that I want to be able to have a positive influence on. I want to be able to change that. If you talked about something that I would be willing to dedicate my life toward, there is nothing financially that I'm willing to dedicate my life toward. Really, money is not that big of a thing to me.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, I like money.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I want as much as God will bless me with. But it's not my motivation.
Yeah.
If we never increased our income from what it was now, it wouldn't affect my lifestyle zero bit. We're blessed to have the lifestyle that we have, and more would not make my life more.
And it's just a tool at this particular point, right? It's just it's what it can offer and what you can do for others and bless other people's lives.
Absolutely. But when you when you see some of the some of the social issues that have been happening in the last few years, that for mainstream America is like, wow, this is going on. But for a huge part of America, they're like, yeah, we know this has been going on.
Welcome to the conversation, right?
Absolutely. And so, I would like to, my big, hairy, audacious goal to be, I could have some kind of impact, move the needle in some kind of way, be able to change the narrative of the story. Because I feel like oftentimes when people are ignorant about something, it's mostly because they haven't had an experience. And so I know for a lot of people, specifically, with me being here in the UP, with me being a part of Life Leadership, I know a lot of people, their experience when it comes to African Americans started with me as far as their face-to-face experience. And so hopefully they would think about their interactions with me and allow that to tint how they view other people, to realize he was just a normal guy.
Yeah. And you make a good point, because you don't meet Tony Jackson, you experience Tony Jackson, right? Like their first experience was with you, because matter of fact, this is how you are all the time.
Right.
Super excited, super friendly. And if someone gives you the time of day to have a chat with them, depending on what, sooner or later, you're going to find something that you want to talk to them about. You edify them for who they are. You have great people skills too, and you're an awesome listener as well. So when you're able to talk with people, you have a very easy way of just being relatable to get close to someone and be like, hey, yeah, I totally get what you're coming from. I used to blah, blah, blah. And so that's super amazing that, that is the BHAG, or Big Hairy Audacious goal, is to, white, black, whatever these labels that society throws at us, that doesn't matter. It's about your ability to be just a good human being and to serve others and to just be a light in a dark world.
Why it doesn't matter, but it does matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, but it does matter. My goal is for it not to matter.
Right.
But as of right now, it does matter. And so, I want to be able to push the needle, be able to influence, the story, because all of this is stories, right?
Yeah.
It's just stories we tell.
Yeah.
Some people tell themselves stories like, oh, these kind of people are like this, and I need to be worried about it. And it kind of works both ways, right?
Sure.
Like, I remember when I was going to different places, or, even living up here, I would talk to people, friends back home, and they're like, you're up there, be careful.
Right.
Because this and that and the other thing. And again, it's the story that they've been telling themselves. But it's easy to tell yourself a story when you're disconnected.
Yes.
When you're separated. And, when you start to study, I just finished my last, my last week of finals last week, and I'm coming into my last semester of law school. But when you start to study the law, you realize that we are separated for a reason. It has been legally enforced, and so when you have generations of people who have been separated, you can kind of start to make assumptions about people. But I'm very optimistic, because via culture, music, social media, all of these different things, I feel like people are coming together, especially when you start to talk about young people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They don't necessarily see those those dividing lines,
those constructs and those paradigms are now being just shattered.
Yep.
They're no longer
the racial constructs, the male female constructs. Like, people are starting to I believe starting to more, it's not. And I heard someone talk about this before. This is not something that's going to happen overnight.
No, right.
I don't think that it's going to happen even in my lifetime. It's going to take time, because it took hundreds of years to get this way. But I see things changing for the better, and I'm optimistic when I look at the younger people.
Yeah, and like you said, everyone's making assumptions, but we all know what happens when you make an assumption.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
So as we kind of near our time towards the end here, I mean, this was absolutely fantastic. First of all, it's always just fun hanging out with you.
I enjoy it.
We're not just doing business stuff. We're just, teeing off on the golf course.
Right. We got to get back out there.
That was
stogies ready.
Stogies, yep. I'm all game for
Absolutely.
that. So, as we wrap up, what is kind of the simplest way for people to connect, maybe with you, or to learn a little bit more about Lilly Dermatology, or if they just want to talk business books with you, or just connect with you, just have a chat? How would they go about connecting with you?
My IG is at Tony Jackson _18. Our business IG is at Lilly Aesthetics, at Lilly Dermatology. That's also our Facebooks as well. And so that's probably the easiest way to reach out and connect to us. Obviously, our website is www.lillydermatology, lillydermmd.com.
Mm-hmm.
So they definitely can look out for us there.
Mm-hmm.
And look out for the Dr. Mercy show. That's going to be coming up.
The Dr. Mercy show
in the fall.
On the TLC network. And
absolutely.
Coming to a television show near you. And you guys have just one season or multiple?
Well, the way it goes is, they go one season at a time, right?
Sure.
So based upon, the reception, how much people watch it, how much they view it, how much they engage and interact.
So if you hear that, your help is Tony's success, and I'm sure it all comes around forward. It comes full circle. If you help those, and the great thing about the Star Grind community, it is a help others, give first mentality.
Absolutely.
And then it's amazing what happens when everyone gives, because then there's more to go around.
Absolutely.
For everyone. So.
And the cool thing, the super cool thing about the show is that the wow factor is crazy. You're going to see some things that I could not look at. I'm a wimp, okay? You're going to see some things that I couldn't look at, as far as stuff that she was removing. And it's crazy. But another thing that we're super excited about is because and we begin feedback on this front is, people just seeing Mercy do her thing. It's very rare, going back to changing the narrative. It's very rare for you to see a black doctor, a black surgeon.
Yeah.
And so now you're seeing this black surgeon perform these incredible superhero
you're like, whoa,
procedures.
Yeah.
She has, she's doing things with people and they're coming back, they're crying, they're telling her testimony that she's been able to help them. And, we just hope that maybe some little black girl somewhere, boy, or anybody for that matter, who may not necessarily feel like they can do something, can watch the show and think, you know what, maybe I can, and kind of be inspired to be able to shoot for that big dream, whether it's becoming a doctor or whatever the case may be.
Awesome. That's great. So we're kind of nearing the time on this Star of Grind Marquette chat with Tony Jackson. Tony, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And we hope that you guys tune us back, because I'm sure we're going to have you on this back again sometimes for maybe a panel discussion with different entrepreneurs. And we are super excited to be part of the Startup Grind community, helping to inspire, educate, and mentor other entrepreneurs and other individuals so we can grow a better world together. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks a lot.